Hey everybody, welcome to Gardening Time with Belle. In today's video, I want to share with you all ways that I have kind of modified and put together the interior of my new greenhouse. As a lifelong gardener, I have been dreaming about what it would be like to have my own greenhouse, and that dream became a reality last August. I did a lot of research for a few years on different companies, and we settled on going with the Yoderbilt greenhouse company out of Arkansas. These particular greenhouses come fully assembled. They deliver them on a huge trailer pulled behind a big truck, and it was quite the day when this beautiful 8 by 16 foot greenhouse arrived. It was better than any Christmas day I can remember as an adult. And so today I want to share with you some ways that we have modified it. When I searched on YouTube and in different Facebook groups about greenhouse gardening, there really isn't a lot, and especially in my zone. I'm coming to you from zone 6B. I live in mid-Missouri, and there's not a lot of YouTube channels out there that are devoted to my neck of the woods. And so I got a lot of encouragement from friends and family members and fellow gardeners to consider starting my own YouTube channel. And I thought, well, we're heading into a new year. Why not take this on as a fun project? So I hope you'll enjoy coming along. And the first series of videos that you're going to see really have to do with greenhouse gardening and how I have modified the greenhouse to make it work for me. Everyone uses the greenhouses differently, and there's no one right way to do anything in terms of gardening. That's why, just like many of you, I love to follow different gardening influencers online from different parts of the country, but in different methods of gardening. There's no right way to do any of this. This is just my way. This is what's working for me. I will certainly take you along on some of my fails, which is part of gardening. It is experimentation and learning and growing and learning from each other. And so I hope you'll find some of my tips and tricks interesting and helpful and informative. So one of my first investments after purchasing the greenhouse and setting it up in August of this year was to pick up a temperature gauge. This Govee brand, there's many different brands on the market, but this particular one was recommended on a lot of the gardening groups that I follow. And what this little device does is it actually monitors the temperature 24/7 and the humidity level of my greenhouse. And so it's pretty amazing to have this. It actually Bluetooths and connects to my phone, but unfortunately I don't have a router booster, a Wi-Fi booster in my greenhouse. So the only way I can really check it is when I bring my phone down here with the phone app. I can get close enough to this and be able to find out what the temperatures have been in the greenhouse over time. This is really important for all of us that do any kind of greenhouse gardening, because you know, certain plants like it warm, certain plants like it cool. You definitely don't want your greenhouse to get cooler in the evenings than about 50 for most things. Now, some things are cool weather crops or cool weather flowers that can handle temperatures a bit lower, but I try to keep my greenhouse in the winter time not getting below, keep it above 50 degrees. So this helps me take a look at and track up and down temperatures and humidity levels of my greenhouse. In fact, if you were to look at this little device, actually one time in August, it got 100 and it claims 141 degrees was the max temperature inside the greenhouse. So I don't know how that happened. I must not have had any of the windows open or using the exhaust fan, but anyhow, and one night, unfortunately, I had a fail. Somehow my new gardening greenhouse heater failed. I'm not sure why or how, and it got down to 23 degrees in here. And we came out in the morning and saw that and discovered all of my gorgeous coleus plants, of which I had probably brought in 20 or more from my garden and potted them up and propagated several. I was hoping to winter them over and just have them in this beautiful space to enjoy. They were all kaput. Coleus, as you know, is semi-tropical, and they don't like it to get below 40 or 50 degrees at night, and that 23-degree night wrecked all of them, and they had to go. However, I was able to salvage some geraniums. My herbs managed to survive. I'm not quite sure how, and so that was a big learning curve for me to really stay on top of my heating system and my temperature. So I really recommend anybody that's going to do greenhouse gardening to invest in one of these little temperature gauges that tracks temperatures over time. Yes, so here I am in the greenhouse wanting to share with you all some ways that we heat our greenhouse. And as you can see here on the floor, I have a Palma greenhouse heater. I purchased this online after the recommendation of several greenhouse gardeners that I really admire and trust, and they have had really good luck with theirs. That's what I use. And then you can see here on the wall, I purchased an additional device that actually is a thermostat, and it is set to keep it above 50 degrees at night. And what I found actually for mine is that I have to set that device, that dial, at about 60 degrees, to be honest with you, so that it doesn't get below 50 at night. So this monitors the hot and cold, the temperature, by this little cord here. If you ever see this hanging down, I need to sort of move it up just a little bit, but this is the device right here that measures the temperature in the greenhouse. And they say it's best if you hang that about midway down from the peak of your greenhouse. And so mine's hanging a little low, so I need to take care of that for sure and raise that up a bit. But anyhow, this is where it monitors the temperature, feeds the data to that device, and also, as I showed you in another video, that little thermostat right there is also monitoring the temperature 24/7, so I can see how it cycles through the night. So that's one way that we like to keep our greenhouse heated on these frigid winter nights. And stay tuned, I'll show you another way that we do that. So if we swing around here on the other end of the greenhouse, I have a backup heater that I've been using on the coldest nights. And here it is. This is an electric oil-based heater, and I keep it fairly close to my raised bed here. You can see that box full of beautiful herbs, and I have it on this end of the greenhouse. And so I just appreciate the extra protection that it provides, so that I've got heat sources coming from both ends of my 16-foot long greenhouse, and it works pretty darn well. This was just installed also. So here's another way to keep your greenhouse warm and cozy in the wintertime, where I live in zone 6B, and that is using some kind of a cover on your greenhouse door. And so what you're seeing here is a heavy-duty packing blanket that one would use if you were packing your furniture up to move. My sweet husband installed it with these, I don't know what those are called, heavy-duty kind of screw nail things. And believe it or not, it has made a tremendous difference in keeping things warm in the winter time. So I would recommend, if you have a greenhouse, knowing that doorways, just like in our own homes, can have the problem of lots of air getting in around the edges. So that's what we've done, and it's working well for us. And another way to keep your greenhouse warm, especially if your greenhouse is built like ours and You can't see it, but below these rubber interlocking mats, our greenhouse floor is actually wood. It's made of wood, and they have tiny, tiny little gaps between the big heavy-duty boards, but those gaps can let air up through. So for us, we like to put down these heavy-duty rubber mats that are interlocking, and we actually did that first thing, and they will stay down year-round. Of course, you know, this is a greenhouse, so it gets some use, and you know, they're a little bit dirty, but actually they're pretty easy to keep clean. And some people wonder about, oh gosh, Belinda, well, what about water? You know, you're watering your plants in the greenhouse. Those of you that do a lot of greenhouse gardening, like I do as a hobbyist, you're not really getting that much water all over the place. And quite frankly, I water this bed back here that has a bunch of lettuce, spinach, and arugula. I water that and it drips through and down here, but it doesn't really get it that wet. Same thing if I swing over here, this other box, elevated box I have here with a lot of my herbs, my fresh culinary herbs. Again, it might drip when I water a little bit on the floor, but it's really no big deal. And quite honestly, it dries up fairly quickly. So that is another way that we have helped to winterize our space, is by covering these wooden floors with these heavy duty interlocking foam mats that are actually great on for your body too. It's great, you know, when you're on your feet. So anyhow, yeah, that's another way that we have found to winterize our greenhouse, and not only for the winter, but actually we keep them in year-round. Insulation to the lower half of the greenhouse. As you can see, we've got, of course, our roof here, and then windows and walls. And on the lower half of the walls, the particular greenhouse I have has these studs. And in between the studs, there was some space that we wanted to cover. So we actually chose, if you can look in there, I'll get in a little closer here, we placed this pink, I don't know, 1.5, 2-inch insulated foam board all the way around. And then we covered it with some thin plywood that I stained. I wanted the plywood, the lower portion, to cover up all that pink insulation. And so you can kind of see it here all the way around, how we wrapped the bottom of the greenhouse in foam insulation board and covered it up with some thin plywood that I stained to match. The company that we went with, the Yoderbilt greenhouse company, which we have loved working with, they will sell you greenhouse stain. And so I'm really glad that we purchased the greenhouse stain, because I'll show you in some future videos the ways that I've stained lots of different things that we added on to customize my greenhouse. So check out my latest addition to the greenhouse. My husband just installed this morning. This is my new greenhouse fan. And wondering why I would have this, and in a video talking about how to winterize your greenhouse when you live in a cold climate like I do. Well, moving the air is essential for your plant's health, but also moving the hot air that wants to hang out in the top of your tall greenhouse. It keeps the warm air circulating and moving around the whole greenhouse. So I went with this brand. It got lots of great reviews. It's a Vever brand. Nobody sponsors me as a YouTuber. I'm just sharing with you in case you have any questions about what brand. And so my husband did have to modify. This is an 18-inch, so it moves a lot of air, and this is on low right now. And so let me pan over here. When it comes back around, I'll show you how much my herbs move when it's on low and it's not pointed directly at them. Actually, the fan is tilted up a little bit, as you can see. It's not pointing downward. So this is the lowest. Let me show you what it looks like when I turn this baby on high. It's hilarious. It's just crazy what it does to the plant. So let me show you when it pans back around on high and what kind of movement it has on my herbs. Yeah, there's some good airflow right there. So anyhow, that's another way that we keep our plants healthy in here, but also keep the heat circulating around so all the heat doesn't just rise up and stay up in the eaves of the greenhouse. There you go. Another tip for keeping your greenhouse warm in the winter. Last but not least, another way that we make sure our new Yoderbilt greenhouse stays nice and warm in the winter and it'll be nice in the summer is the skirting my husband installed. So as you can see down here, right here, this was open. This greenhouse was off the ground by that amount, and you know that it has a wooden floor, but having that be open down there would allow wind and cold and snow to blow in and get underneath the greenhouse. And so we decided where we live, it would be good for us to wrap the base of our greenhouse in some wood. And so my husband, thank goodness, is a former home remodeler and carpenter and knows how to do all kinds of amazing things. And so he went ahead and wrapped the base in wood, and so we don't have any kind of cold air or critters crawling in and getting underneath the greenhouse. So there she is in all her glory, one of my dream additions to the garden. And so that's just another tip that I hope you'll find helpful if you end up needing to winterize your greenhouse. So in a previous video, I was explaining to you how we winterized the greenhouse and how we placed a packing blanket right in front of our doorway. And this is just a really low-tech way of keeping the drafts from coming into the greenhouse. And it has worked remarkably well. So I just show you what it looks like when you're coming into the greenhouse. And you just move that up to the side and ta-da! You're back in your happy place. I hope these tips were helpful to you all today, and happy gardening, everybody.